Hello, and welcome back to this video series on speed development in team sport athletes. In this video, we'll be looking at max velocity. Max velocity refers to the maximum speed reached by athletes during their sprints, occurring after they have finished or can no longer accelerate. Max velocity cannot be sustained for long periods, as it requires an intense effort from the body that exhausts it. The best sprinters in the world take longer to accelerate, reaching their max velocity later in the race, but therefore also limiting the amount of deceleration that occurs at the end of races. As can be seen in the Usain Bolt graph on the right, he reaches his max velocity around 60 to 80 meters into the race before decelerating a tiny bit at the end of the race. At max velocity, ground contact times are decreased. It does not occur as much as accelerations in team sports due to game demands and oppositional impediments, but it does still occur occasionally, so it's important to train. So max velocity might not be as prevalent in team sports. The research shows it is still vital to performance in numerous different sports, short sprint ability, and can cause many positive side effects. Increasing max velocity can improve acceleration ability. As an illustration, think about top speed like absolute strength in the bench press. If athlete A can bench 300 pounds, whereas athlete B can only bench 200 pounds, it goes without saying that athlete A will be able to lift a sub-maximal weight, say 135 pounds, at a far higher velocity than athlete B. In the same sense, athletes who can reach higher top speeds are inherently able to accelerate more rapidly and efficiently at the onset of a sprint. By increasing their top speed, athletes will also find it easier to achieve and maintain faster sub-maximal speeds without spending as much energy as previously required. Increasing their speed reserve, a concept pioneered by the famous Canadian sprinter and sprint coach Charlie Francis. While there's a common notion that sprint training is inherently risky for athletes in terms of injury risk, it has been found that strategically exposing athletes to maximum velocity sprinting is arguably the most effective method for bulletproofing the hamstring against injury. Therefore, while max velocity might not occur a ton in many team sports, it is still critical to train. Nothing else combines speed, coordination, power, stability, rhythm, strength, elasticity, ankle stiffness, range of motion, neuromuscular development, posterior chain development. The list can go on and on. It is a basic human movement and one that is too often neglected or lost in training and as we age. The final study found a correlation between maximal velocity and the number of maximal velocity sprints and the total number of points in the standings at the end of the season in a German soccer league. So it shows the importance of max velocity sprinting. Here's a video of an incident when max velocity was required in a game and very useful. And at DK Metcalf, you see his superior speed will be able to chase down the player with the ball and save a touchdown and significantly change the game. So you'll see the importance of speed. So breaking down max velocity, it is dependent on stride length and stride frequency. Good stride length and frequency will result in faster speeds. Force development, specifically the rate of force development, is key to maximizing both these components. First, greater force applied to the ground will cause a greater displacement of the athlete's body during the mid-swing phase, causing greater stride length. The second benefit of increased force application is increasing stride frequency. Stride frequency is comprised of two components: ground contact time and flight time. Research on elite sprinters indicates that the best sprinters spend less time on the ground. This is because the forces they produce are so great that they enter a period of flight more rapidly than weaker and slower sprinters. As a result, despite not moving their limbs significantly faster through the air, faster and more skilled sprinters tend to have greater stride frequency because they reduce the amount of time they spend on the ground. At max velocity, athletes have a more upright posture, and thus more vertical force is applied rather than horizontal force, such as in the acceleration phase. Incorrect mechanics can result in horizontal braking forces that slow down the athlete and limit the vertical propulsive forces. Rhythm is still important in max velocity sprinting, as we are still looking for athletes to have a steady, rhythmic pace to their strides. Finally, the posterior chain has been found to be crucial to sprinting at max velocity. as the elasticity and power of the hamstrings and glutes can greatly impact sprintability. Moving into the technical model of max velocity sprinting, we're looking for athletes to have a more upright posture than acceleration. Throughout acceleration, the athlete should rise slowly like an airplane, and now they should be upright, eyes looking straight ahead, head, neck, and shoulders in line with their hips, a neutral pelvis, and their hips should be tall, meaning they're not sinking into their lower body but have stiff legs and ankles. In addition, their upper body should be relaxed. A common tell of a tense upper body is raised shoulders, so it's important to make sure athletes' shoulders are lowered and that their jaws, necks, and arms are relaxed. The arms should move only in the sagittal plane, the plane that the athlete is moving in, as side-to-side movement can slow down the sprint. Similar to acceleration, we are looking for significant arm movement back and forth during the sprint, pumping the arms back and forward in opposite of the legs movement. Sprinting can be broken down into frontside mechanics, everything that happens as you bring the leg forward, preparing to strike the ground, and backside mechanics, everything where we're pushing the leg back into the ground and creating triple extension. Knee drive and powerful frontside mechanics wind up your legs like a spring, preparing them to explode into the ground. Frontside mechanics allow for better positioning of force production, pre-stretch on the glutes and hamstrings, greater usage of elastic qualities, larger ranges of motion, and help maintain pelvic positioning and overall posture. Backside mechanics, on the other hand, can alter the sprint mechanics, often leading to overstriding and consequently increased braking forces and greater injury risk. At max velocity, the foot should land almost directly under the hip, or slightly in front of it. Max velocity sprinting can be split into 5 different parts, 3 occurring during the stance phase, when the athlete is touching the ground, and 2 during the flight phase, when they are in the air. Touchdown, referring second to the right at the top of the screen, is the moment the athlete strikes the ground. At this point, the thighs should be aligned with each other, with the tibia of the touchdown leg perpendicular to the ground, and the back foot tucked under the butt. Full support is the next phase, when the full body weight is on the front foot. During full support, the back thigh should be driven forwards and upwards to allow the athlete to attack the ground from above and generate proper vertical propulsive forces. The heel should meet the butt close to the center of mass to limit backside mechanics, as previously mentioned, and the stance leg should be firm and stiff with a stiff ankle, rather than bending or yielding. Increasing lower leg strength and stability increases the potential to transfer high forces from the hips into the ground. Lower leg stiffness will enhance ground contact times, vertical impulses, activation, and involvement from muscles up the chain, and elastic return. Toe off is the point at which the body is about to leave the ground. The frame all the way on the left. At this point, the stance foot should be picked perpendicular to the ground, with a 90-degree angle between thighs, and the front leg shin parallel to the rear leg thigh. The flight phase consists of maximal vertical projection, when the hips are at the highest, and strike, when the athlete is approaching the ground to strike down. During maximal vertical projection, the front knee should be slightly greater than 90 degrees, and the front foot dorsiflexed, both those allowing for proper foot placement and therefore force production, downwards and backwards. During the strike, the rear leg knee should be under the hip and the back femur perpendicular to the ground. In this image, you can see the necessity for proper knee drive and foot placement. Incorrect knee drive and foot placement will increase braking forces and result in less efficient running. Here's a video of Usain Bolt sprinting. You're able to see the mechanics at max velocity. While every athlete will inevitably have their own running style that works for them, these base mechanics should be mostly followed. You can see his heels are coming to the butt, close to the center of mass. We've good frontside mechanics and limiting his backside mechanics. He's stepping almost directly under his body. great knee drives, big arm movement. Getting into coaching cues now. We'll stick with the external cues as we discussed in the previous acceleration video. And here's a list of coaching cues that you can use with your athletes or with anyone. Examples: elbow to the sky, thumb to the eye, or from the eye socket to hip pocket. Both are kind of just teaching proper arm movement and arm drive. Hammer back is also about arm drive. We want our athletes to step over high grass or attack from above, meaning we want the knees to be driven up and forward, and increase the frontside mechanics, which will consequently decrease the backside mechanics. Stepping on hot coals ensures quick ground contact times. Stay tall. We want upright posture when we're at max velocity. Spin the globe also about frontside mechanics and backside mechanics. Explode through the track or punch the ground. We want explosive athletes. We want a lot of force production down into the ground, propel ourselves forward and up. Snap your shoelace to the sky. We'll teach front foot ankle dorsiflexion, so make sure we get that triple flexion. Don't spill the water is good for upright posture and a neutral pelvis. So for that one, we're imagining there's either our pelvis is a bowl or a jug of water, or we have a jug of water on our head. We want to make sure it doesn't spill as we're running. Don't crease the card. So this one's for relaxed upper body. You tell the athlete that imagine they have a card in their hand, and after they're done sprinting, you want them to give you the card back, but it shouldn't be creased. This will ensure they have relaxed hands and consequently shoulders and upper body. And lastly, imagine a rubber band from your heel to your butt. This one just teaches proper backside mechanics and ensures we're not overstraining the hamstrings and we're bringing the knees forward. So now getting into training for max velocity. The training regimen is very similar for max velocity as it is for acceleration, except the drills are slightly different, and we must be even more careful as max velocity is incredibly high intensity. The body will adapt specifically to the demands imposed on it during the exercise. Therefore, the best way to improve sprint max velocity is simply to sprint. Studies have shown that weight training combined with sprint training is superior to just one or the other. Strength training is great to build a bigger engine, but you must learn how to use that engine. If you want to be fast, you must sprint. The quote I really like about sprinting is, "If you have a Ferrari, don't plow fields with it." What this means is that if there are world-class sprinters, or even team sport athletes looking to improve their max velocity, don't do high volumes and low rest times. Minimize the reps, but do high intensity ones each time you go. You wouldn't use a Ferrari to plow a field. Why make your sprinter do long conditioning? Let the Ferrari go fast, don't waste it away in a field. Max velocity sprint training should focus on quality, not quantity. If athletes are tired and efforts are sub-maximal, speed will not increase. The rest periods and volume limits are the same as acceleration. So 300 meters total, 1 minute rest for every 10 meters, or 1 to 12 or 120 work to rest ratio. And it's really important that the central nervous system is fresh every time. To complement the sprint training, resistance training and plyometric exercises should also be programmed, as these have been shown to be beneficial to increasing speed and performance. A good strength foundation is necessary to produce large forces and propel the body forward, while also keeping the lower leg stiff at ground contact. Plyometric exercises are important for the stretch shortening cycle and creating good elasticity in the legs, limiting ground contact times. Cardio training should be limited while sprint training, as it can be detrimental to top end speed, and, as said, don't plow fields with a Ferrari. The sprint training for max velocity is organized the same as acceleration, with drills split into transfer, technique, sprint variations, and competitions. There is a greater focus on vertical force than horizontal force in max velocity drills. So, for example, in the transfer drill for the acceleration, we had horizontal skips to develop horizontal force, but now we want more vertical force, so now vertical skips. Sprints like flying and build-up sprints allow the athlete to increase their speed to max velocity and ensure they are truly training at max velocity during the exercise. The progressions for max velocity drills are identical to that in acceleration. We want increased volume, intensity, specificity, complexity, and decreased resistance. So going from banded to free. There are a famous set of speed drills created by Gerard Mach that are used in many sprinting programs around the world. Mach split exercises into A, B, and C drills. A drills targeting the knee lift and drive, B drills about the foreleg action, and C drills about the rear foot push off. Each drill can be progressed from a march to a skip to a run, increasing difficulty, complexity, and intensity. So, for example, we might start with an A march and then progress to an A skip and then an A run when we finally mastered it. Pictured in the next two slides is another sample training program, this time focusing on increasing max velocity instead of acceleration. The ramp warm-up, strength, and accessory work is all still in place, with the speed section being max velocity focused rather than acceleration. A march and A skips are programmed to work on sprint mechanics, and plyometric hurdle work develops vertical force production. This workout is programmed for team sport athletes, but can be changed according to sport and training age. In the later workout, A skips and marches are progressed to A runs. The bilateral plyometrics are progressed to unilateral, and drills like wickets and med ball knee punches are introduced. Volume is increased on many of the sprints, yet only slightly, as quality is more important than quantity with speed training and max velocity training specifically.